So we have looked extensively at networks. We've looked at what they are, how they're structured, what they're used for, how data is transmitted across them. Now they've become part of our everyday lives in all sorts of ways, and the increase in networks leads to an increase for potential data loss or data interception by unauthorized users or hackers. So in this topic, we're going to be looking at the different threats posed to networks and the data on them, and then we'll be looking at potential prevention methods. So let's start by talking about different types of network attack. Now, a passive attack is almost a bit of an opportunist. So they will be monitoring data traveling on a network and they will intercept any sensitive information that they find. Whereas an active attack is more malicious in the sense that they will attack a network with malware. So types of malware are viruses, Trojans, worms, that kind of thing. And we'll look at what each of those is in a second. You've got an insider attack when an employee of a company uses their network access to steal information. A bit silly in today's age where you can track most things. Brute force attack. You are just trying common combinations like password 1, password 123, password 1234. So that will be a bot that will just be working its way through common passwords. And then lastly, you've got DDoS attacks where a hacker will just flood a network or a server with useless data so that it overloads and crashes and it can't be used by the people intended to. So say for example, there was a DDoS attack on Amazon servers. Amazon servers would be dealing with so much useless traffic that you wouldn't be able to log on as a user and buy whatever you needed from Amazon that day. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the key terms that I've talked about when we were talking about these active attacks. So malware is malicious software and it's installed on someone's device without their knowledge or consent. Now, they might have consented to it but not realised that it was malicious software. And we'll talk about how that can happen as we go through the next two slides. So the most common type is this virus. They will attach themselves to your emails, that kind of thing, and they are spread when users copy or open them. So they will pretend they'll look like something you want to open, and then obviously they infect your files. Now, two very similar things to viruses are worms and Trojans. Now, a worm is more dangerous because they don't need the user to copy or open them. Once they are on your system, they don't need any interaction from you, the user. They can just spread to everyone in your contacts, and then when they get onto your contacts' computers, they can obviously access their contacts and so on and so on. So they spread very quickly. And then lastly, we've got Trojans. Now, hopefully you've heard about Trojan Horse, where an army snuck into behind enemy lines by pretending to give the gift of a horse and then they were inside. Now, this is the same kind of concept, but obviously with software. So a Trojan pretends to be normal and good software. So you install them and then obviously it's malicious, it does something bad, but they don't replicate themselves like the worms. They have to have the user kind of install them. A famous Trojan was the I love you virus, or the I love you kind of malware, which was sent out on Valentine's Day, and people obviously saw I love you and thought, oh, someone sent me a Valentine, and then opened it and it's obviously done damage. A little bit of romance for topic 1.6, hey? So to finish off, let's just have a look at some of the things that malware might do. So it might delete or modify files. Scareware is where it will convince you that you need to install something to keep your computer safe. So it might say you've got a virus, you need to install this antivirus, but actually you're installing malware. They're tricking you into it by scaring you. locking files through ransomware. Now, this happened to the NHS a couple of years ago, where it locked all the computers and said, unless you give me £10,000 or whatever it is, you won't be able to access your files again. Spyware is software that sits on your computer and monitors your activity on the computer, so your mouse clicks, your keyboard presses, that kind of thing. So it just spies on what you're doing, and it makes it difficult for you to identify that's what is happening. Rootkits, again, very difficult to identify. They are a type of software that will install onto your computer, but it's very hard to identify and thus very hard to remove. And then lastly, opening back doors is that Trojan concept that we talked about before, where you sneak in unexpectedly, shall we say. So there's quite a lot of new key terms on this topic. Some of them you might have heard about a lot, particularly in the news, but please watch the video again and make sure you are happy with all of these key terms. We'll be building on from them in the next video.